And welcome back.
Yeah, and we are joined by a nutritionist, getting into the swing of things, providing that necessary balance. So welcome, Doris. Thank you for joining us.
All right. And we're here to talk about creating healthy meal plans. Doris, please tell us, what should we be eating? I feel like we all know the answer, but we still can't get it right.
Get it right, exactly. Okay. Well, it's another new year. Again, most of us are starting to make new health goals.
Yeah.
Okay, especially if you're one that is feeling frustrated or disappointment from not being able to achieve the goals that you made this past year.
Yeah.
Okay, so before you want to change what you eat, it's very important that you know how to set these goals. Okay, because sometimes we would set some unrealistic goals or some very distant goals that we want to achieve in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's very important that we know how to define them. Okay, make sure they are measurable. Okay, they're specific and that they are realistic.
Yeah.
Okay, for example, if your goal is to lose weight, okay, you might want to focus on more how much you want to lose a week or a month instead of how much you want to lose at the end of the challenge. Okay, so it's something very important for you to know how to set these goals beforehand.
I like that. So what's a realistic number per? Is it better to go per week or per month?
It's better to go per week.
Okay.
I like to average around 2 pounds a week, which is an equivalent of 8 pounds a month. Okay,
is
that
healthy.
would be the healthy weight.
Yeah.
The faster you lose, the easier it is for you to gain. Okay, so it's very important that you try to stick to at least 2 pounds for the week.
So
That is-
technically, you should not be losing more than 8 pounds for the month.
you can, however, if you're doing it the right way. If
Okay.
you're shedding pounds too fast, that means that you're probably losing a lot of water, losing a lot of muscle, and not necessarily working on what is the body fat.
And I don't know, is it, I have a friend that's so caught up with weighing herself. And I always tell her, I think it's better to do measurements, because when you weigh yourself, sometimes it's just water. And does that make sense? Am I right when I tell her that?
Indicated that you're giving the
At the end of the day, weight is just a number.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe you might want to change your goal to losing, let's say, 2 centimeters
Yeah.
of waist for the week. Okay, instead of saying, oh, I want to lose a whole 40, 50
Yeah.
pounds in
Yeah.
6 months. Okay, so you might want to work on that, especially if you're a person that's in the gym and do a lot of muscle workouts, then maybe losing inches would be better for you instead of sticking to losing pounds.
Now, I like that. And we also know that there are the scanners that measure your body fat versus
Yeah.
your muscle as well, which are very helpful. Coming back to the concept of setting goals for yourself, we've had many fitness coaches on, and you know what? They always point us back in the right direction, that the exercise is the smaller percentage of weight loss. The food is what really makes the impact.
That's the hard part.
Yeah. And it's fascinating because and it explains a lot. Sometimes I see some people working out so hard and the progress they make is minimal. And then, in conversation, you see that they've not changed their eating patterns. Doris, this is a really, and I know you've seen it in your experience, this is a challenging thing to do. What's your advice on making that change from what we regularly eat to a healthier version?
Okay. Before you make these changes, first of all, you need to take a look of what it is that you're eating. Okay, you might want to write down exactly all the meals or all the food groups that you've been having for the entire week. Then from that, you choose what you want to keep. Okay, preferably you want to keep the healthy ones, and then what you'd like to eliminate. Okay, what you eliminate should be the goals. Okay, let's say I want to cut down on sugar, I want to go from drinking 6 cups of coffee to 2, you want to cut down on salt. Okay, you want to use those foods that you want to eliminate as your main goals. Okay, now after you make that list, then you might want to choose one that you want to follow. Okay, it's very difficult for you to follow all of them at the same time. Okay, so you want to choose the one that would be, you would say, would be a little bit hard for you to follow.
You start with the
you
hard
want
one?
to start with the hard one.
Oh.
Okay, and make that a habit. Okay, never move on to changing a second bad habit until you have made the first one a habit. Okay, so you want to start small, and then you want to build up on your accomplishments. Okay, and once you start to make these small changes, that will motivate you to make even bigger changes at the end.
Notice how Marlene clutched her cup, right?
I took my coffee away before they told me to eliminate it. But I don't take sugar in it. That's one of the things I've done to kind of justify my coffee habit. But there's one thing that I've seen in the stuff that you've passed on to us, and I think it's so important. You really encourage people to look at the reasons why they want to get healthy. Why is that?
Okay. Because if you only focus on what you want to get, but you don't realize the importance of the process, okay, if you don't realize the benefits that you will get at the end of it, which will not at the end only be losing weight, okay, you will be preventing very important diseases that you can develop later in life.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to enjoy the process, okay? Most people that do enjoy the process, that really get involved, that are motivated, that also make it a part of their lifestyle change.
Yeah.
At the end, they don't even focus on the goal, even though they're getting there. So you want to make it a part of your, it's not only the exercise that you do, but you want every meal that you have throughout the day make a good impact in your health.
Okay. And I guess if you have added motivation other than weight loss, like I'll sleep better, I don't have aches and pains, my skin is nicer because I drink more water and less whatever. Yeah. Okay, so those are all things to take into consideration. And what about planning meals?
Okay. It's very important that when you start to plan meals, okay, you have an idea of how much you should have to eat. Okay, for some people, they might require the assistance of a nutritionist to know exactly how much you should have. Okay, or you can go ahead and do it on your own. Let's say if before you used to have 6 spoons of sugar a day, well, tomorrow I'll be having, let's say 4. Okay, for example, cutting down sugar is something that should be done gradually. Okay, it's not something we can take away completely from one day.
So sugar addiction is real?
It is real, yes. And then when you start to cut down, let's say on sugar, on salt, or on oils, you realize that you don't even miss it at the beginning. Okay, so you want to know exactly how much you should have. Okay, then afterwards you'd like to plan at the time of the day. Okay, timing is very important. Okay, so as not to affect your metabolism and the way the body digests food. Okay, because if you eat all hours of the day, then that will affect your appetite every day, and then your appetite at the end affects the weight. Okay, so you want to be fueling your body at least every 3 to 4 hours. Okay, having healthy snacks. Okay, that doesn't only helps to prevent hunger, but it also helps to increase the metabolism, which in return helps you lose weight, and then it also helps to keep the blood sugar in balance.
So snacking.
So snacking is very important.
Healthy snacks.
No, you can have a powder bun as a snack.
Or Lay's or chips,
So, you're oftentimes working with clients who don't have a choice. They need to make this change instantaneously to preserve life or the quality of their life. What do you find to be some of the more effective strategies in making that switch? So let's say I eat in rotation meat pies, tacos, and fried jack for breakfast. 4 days, 5 days a week. Lunch, I'm having rice and beans. What else do people have? Fried chicken. What else do we get quickly?
Like maybe panades, sambutes.
Yeah.
Tamales.
So, tamales, yeah. So all quick meals. And then maybe when I go home in the night, I have a home cooked meal.
Or ramen.
Or ramen. If that's my diet, where do I start?
Okay.
And I have a Coke with my lunch, sometimes with my breakfast.
Okay. Well, you might want to start with just changing the breakfast, okay? Especially if you're a person that has never changed your eating habits. Okay, what I recommend is that you start changing the breakfast. Okay, because when you have a full, complete breakfast, Okay, that also helps you to be a little bit more health conscious of what you eat throughout the day. Okay, so you want to have a complete breakfast so as you don't overeat on the other meals. Okay, also once you find that you've changed your breakfast completely, then you'd probably want to move on to another meal, which would be the lunch. Okay, maybe you would have your plate of fried chicken at lunch, but maybe you wouldn't be drinking the Coke. Try to switch the Coke for water. Okay, at night, let's say instead of having too much carbs at night, you might want to cut down the amount of carbs that you eat. Okay, so you want to make the changes gradually and not try to change all the meals in one day, because that's when the more you starve your body, the more you limit foods, the more you crave it. So you have to do it gradually.
That's such great advice, because anybody who's ever attempted a diet, it's over that after the first day you're miserable because you've changed everything in one day. So it does make sense to do it incrementally. Now, talking of the breakfast options, because I think I like the great start helps you for the rest of the day. What are some good healthy options for breakfast, and how soon should you have it after you wake up?
Okay. First of all, breakfast should be done at least in the first half an hour after you wake up. Okay, and then breakfast options, you'd want to go more for wheat products instead of white products. Okay, for example, wheat bread, wheat muffins, maybe wheat bagels. Okay, you can go for low-fat cheeses. You can go for eggs. Okay, sometimes I even advise to eat chicken in the morning. There's nothing wrong with having chicken in the morning. Okay, healthy fruits.
Not fried chicken.
Not fried chicken.
Disclaimer.
Healthy fruits, even vegetables. Okay, we want to try to include vegetables in all of the meals. Okay, so we want to have a complete breakfast that includes carbs, includes protein, includes fruits, vegetables, and also dairy. Okay, so that would be an example of a complete breakfast.
And if you could help us identify, and I'm really putting you on the spot here, a healthy fast food breakfast. So, we're all guilty. We didn't make breakfast before we left for work, and we need to just grab something on the go. What's something that you can pick up that isn't going to kill your entire day?
Okay, well, something that's very common everywhere would be, let's say if you get a breakfast burrito. Okay, there's nothing wrong with having one, but then instead of eating the whole large one, maybe you'd want to eat half of it. Okay, some of them would contain protein, beans, chicken. Some of them has vegetables. Maybe you might just want to accompany it with a siding of fruit.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be one of the healthy.
Breakfast burrito. Okay, yeah. And let's talk about the drinks, the sugary drinks.
Okay.
Is being healthy means no sugary drinks at all?
Okay. If you want to cut down on sugar, you'd want to eliminate all bottled juices, okay? Even the ones that say 100% fruit juice, because those still have sugar. So you might want to prepare a fruit juice at home, because sometimes even when we would buy, let's say, a lemonade or watermelon juice, those would still bring in sugar. Okay, so you might want to prepare them at home or go for water, okay, which is the only thing that wouldn't have any sugar at all.
And soft drinks?
Sodas have a lot of sugar also. Even diet sodas, okay? So we'd want to stick away from everything that would have Splenda, sucralose, or any other substitute sugar.
But I really like the idea that, it's gradual. It's not something that you just jump into and, life changed. Because I think that's what makes it sustainable too, because you set these plans and then, I'm guilty of doing that. I set plans and then it's like, nah. 1 week later, I'm like, maybe not.
And I've seen it also that most people make goals and you'd only see them following it for the first month of the year. After that, they would fall off of it or then come back to it. Okay, so it's something that if you be too strict with it, and let's say you go to a party and you want to avoid absolutely everything they serve, it's impossible. Okay, so you want to do it step by step.
I like that. I really like that. And I think it's more manageable for people, especially if it's an overwhelming process. Now, another very common way that people attempt weight loss is cutting out food groups. I'm no longer having anything made of flour whatsoever. Suddenly, I have a gluten intolerance and I must only get gluten-free products. Talk to us about what your thoughts are on these.
Okay. We talked about this before. Actually, these are known as fat diets.
Yeah.
Okay, and especially they are very popular at this time of the year. So we have to be very careful with those types of diets that eliminate food groups.
Yeah.
Okay, they break all of the rules of a healthy diet. Okay, because they're not balanced, they're not varied, they're not complete, and they're not sufficient for the person. Okay, so what happens when we start to eliminate food groups is that our body starts to deprive of many nutrients. So we might lose weight, okay, but then you end up regaining the weight the minute you stop following the diet. And then we start to blame ourselves because we say we didn't have enough willpower, we didn't have enough motivation to keep the weight down. When in reality, the problem is not the person, it's the type of diet that you choose to do. Okay, so it's very important to try to stay away from those diets that restrict a lot of food groups.
You know, I see a lot of people confusing eating healthy with almost like starving themselves. So how would you explain to people, at least I would consider it starving themselves. You know,
I was just saying, why would you?
You know, maybe like, okay, so I can't have what I would normally have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then I eat like considerably smaller plates, which won't fill you. How would you explain to someone the importance of eating, of making sure that your body gets the nutrients?
Okay, well, it has been proven that cutting down on calories or eliminating meals just not to add on extra calories to your body will eventually lead you to gain weight. Okay, what happens when you stay too long without eating, especially if you skip breakfast? Okay, your muscles become weak, your organs start to become weak. So when you finally have a meal, and it will be a large meal because you've been too long without eating, that meal cannot be worked on by the body muscle to gain muscle. So the body fat works on it, and then we end up gaining the weight. Okay, so that is an example of how weight gain can be due to not eating or starving. So.
Yeah. But yeah, because fasting has become very popular. Some people,
20-day fast.
yeah, and there's the 500 calories for 1 day or 2 days a week as a way to lose weight. So what you're saying is it's gonna come back either way.
Either way.
Now, I think, there was a study that was released last week ranking diets, and they were saying that low carbohydrates, high protein, high fat diet is literally the worst diet that people can engage in. And I know a lot of people who buy into this. It goes back to balancing everything out. And I wanna ask you, what is your recommendation for a healthy meal, a practical healthy meal that we can have without taking out the rice, without tripling the chicken? Tell us what we can do.
Okay. Well, to have a healthy meal, we'd want to look at what the average adult should have. An average adult should have approximately 2,000 calories a day. If you're active, maybe a little bit more. If you're not active, a little bit less. Okay, so how would that look like? Okay, you'd want to measure your portions, okay? When it comes to protein especially, and then the amount of carbs that you have, okay? So for example, in the morning, the recommendation would be 2 loaves of wheat bread, a portion of chicken, which is normally 30 grams, which is an amount like this, or 2 full
Which
eggs,
is like a thigh.
which
I
is like a
guess.
thigh.
Or half a breast.
Yes,
Yeah.
an
Okay.
ounce basically. You can include fruit in the morning. However, the portion would be an apple, a small banana, an orange, okay? When you have dairy, you would want to, instead of having a tall glass of milk, maybe you'd want to have a smaller glass. Okay, when it comes to the amount of oil, in the morning you can do probably 2 teaspoons, okay, for cooking only. But if you don't use any oil, then you can just eliminate that. Okay, so you'd probably want to use the same portions you use for breakfast at lunch, and then also at night. However, when you serve your lunch, then you'd want to measure it the exact amount of rice that you prepare. There's nothing wrong with having white rice, brown rice, rice and beans, vegetable rice, or any other type of rice. It's just the amount that you serve yourself. Okay, basically the recommendation would be 1 to 2 cups. Okay, and then maybe at lunch you can double the protein than in the morning.
Okay.
Okay. Now at night is when you'd want to try to stay away from the carbs as much as possible.
What about, and people skip their dinner, you know, or they have a very specific cutoff time before, where they stop eating before bed. Is this helpful?
Yes, a lot of people would eat their dinner before 6, okay, and then they wouldn't go sleep until 11 or midnight. Okay, so this is also considered fasting because you're not having anything to eat until the other day in the morning. Okay, and basically because you didn't eat anything before 6, then you'd probably be hungry and you'd go for something unhealthy. So you can eat after 6, there's nothing wrong with that. You just want to have something very, very light. Okay, and you want it to eat it at least 2 hours before you go to sleep.
So just 2 hours. I always thought it was more.
No, just 2 hours.
Okay. And water is important.
Yes, water is something very, very important. Sometimes we forget to drink water. Okay, we would normally only go for a cup or 2, but the recommendation is at least 2 liters for the day for the average adult.
And what about these people who say that water tastes bad? I never did understand it, but there are people who say, I don't like the taste
They
of
don't
water.
like the taste of water. Yeah.
What can they do to encourage themselves to stay hydrated?
Okay. Well, in that case, maybe you can add, let's say, some lime as flavoring, with no sugar, just a little bit of lime, or a little portion of an orange or another fruit that you may like, so as to give it a little bit more flavor.
Yeah, I don't think water tastes bad. I just don't think it has much of a taste.
No, I love drinking. I have no problem drinking water, but I've literally encountered people who say, I don't like water, or I can't have water with my meal. Or they don't like the taste of it, which I don't understand it. I'm only asking because I've heard it. And the final portion that we see here, of course, exercise is included, but sleep. What does sleep have to do with being healthy?
Okay, it's very important for you to get that night's rest. Okay,
Yeah.
the minimum amount recommended of sleep is approximately 8 hours. Okay, so you'd want to try to get at least 8 hours of
8
sleep.
hours minimum?
Okay. Because if you don't get those 8 hours of sleep, then that affects also the way you eat and the way you function throughout the day, and it also affects the exercise that you do. Okay, because normally if you don't have the good night's sleep, you tend to not eat well, and you don't eat well, then you can't function during your exercise program. So it's very important that you try to get.
And you build
that in.
muscle when you sleep too. 8 hours. What happens if you don't? If you average 5 hours a night? I'm scared to know.
Well, when you average just 5 hours, you don't rest as well. However, you want to try to increase the sleeping time as much as you can.
Gotcha. Okay. Anything else that you'd like to share with us about putting together healthy meals as we start off the new year?
Okay. So, like I mentioned, it's very important that you plan everything beforehand. Okay, if you're a person that cannot prepare your meals because you have to work, prepping meals is very recommended. We see a lot of people prepping meals, let's say on a Sunday for the whole week. There's nothing wrong with that, because that way you get to control the amount of ingredients that you use to prepare your food. So try to eat as much meals at home. Okay, especially the breakfast and the night meal, because sometimes the lunch is a little bit difficult. But then there's always the option of meal prepping. Okay, and we see a lot more people doing that lately.
All right.
Meal prepping. Maybe I should take that on.
You might. You never know. And if there's one thing that would make a significant impact that we could just cut out of our diet, say no more, what would it be from a nutritionist perspective?
I would say the sugar. Okay, because
Like sugar altogether?
Sugar altogether. Okay, the
that's a
excess
hard
sugar okay, can also convert it to fat when the body uses the sugar
Okay.
that you already need. Okay, so that would be the main thing to cut off. Okay, you can cut down on the amount of fat that you have, but at the end the body does need certain amount of fat. The body needs more fat than sugar, so you'd want to take that away.
And natural sugars, are those okay, or just sugar in general?
Sugar in general.
Okay. Got it.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for being with us this morning, Doris. We appreciate the information that you've brought. And I think, we have to say thank you, especially for such a realistic approach to eating healthy, which is starting one meal at a time, one task at a time. So you don't have to be so overwhelmed and quit after 1 week.
After 1 week.
Yeah. All right. We're going to go ahead now and take a break. And when we come back, we'll be talking about planning for emergencies. So stay tuned.